Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Gavin here with secretsoflongevity.com. This video is on the top 5 health myths that, from my perception, exist in the alternative health nutritional community. So this isn't about broader range of health, including exercise and all these other things. Focusing in here on sort of a number of different groups that you could say are non-mainstream. They have more progressive views. And I think that's better overall because it's not just listening to the diet dictocrats. But essentially there's even common myths that exist in these sort of more whole food type diet promoting communities. And these were the first 5 that came to mind that I wanted to share because they are very prevalent. There's definitely going to be ones that might be more significant in certain ways, but these were the most broad ones. And these are in no particular order, but number 1 is do not eat any type of processed food. So the problem I see with this is the idea that processing is harmful. If we look at the word processing, all it means to do is to manipulate, to work with our hands. So that can include chopping it up, that can include making it into a smoothie, that can include cooking it in any fashion, it can include fermenting it. But of course, people associate it with the idea of over-processing. So this isn't so much of a health myth as it is needing to be more specific with our language, because some degree of food processing actually makes a lot of different types of foods more easily accessible for our bodies. And there are people that falsely believe that the least we can do to our food, the better it is. So that's like literally, eating a leaf off a plant without even picking off with your hand, just with your mouth. Now I know they don't literally mean that, but they're basically saying you should just pick it and eat it right away. That can be great, but if that's all you did for getting your greens, you would end up with certain types of deficiencies of what you could be getting from those greens, because you're getting 1/3 to 1/10 of what you could get if you just lightly saute it, or if you're eating some greens fermented, like cabbage and other vegetables that can be fermented and be consumed in that way. You're missing out on dehydration, which if you're a raw foodist, that's an acceptable way to access a lot more nutrition, because the drying out causes the moisture to come out of the cells and burst the cell walls, thus making all the nutrition inside the cell accessible. So food processing makes the nutrition inside the cell walls of plants, and in some cases even animal foods, more accessible by our bodies. But of course we do want to avoid when chemicals are added to food, when they're so manipulated and made to last on a shelf a long time. That is definitely something I would agree on, that is a health risk, and that's something we want to stay away from. But it just comes down to languaging. So in my opinion, we just need to drop using that word, because it does lead some people astray with this mentality of avoiding any type of processing in any form whatsoever. Number 2 on the list is the cholesterol myth. This is a big one. There's still people out there, and it's usually vegetarians and vegans, but even people in sort of this mainstream diet nutritional philosophy that saturated fat and cholesterol cause heart disease. I'm not going to go into too much depth here. You can always check out this video of mine, which goes into a lot of depth on the facts that cholesterol is very building to the body. It's preventative to a whole wide range of illnesses. It's going to increase your overall lifespan. So the argument of cardiac and arterial health aside, people with more cholesterol in their diets and with higher cholesterol overall have longer lifespans, because cholesterol actually reduces your risk for cancer. Again, there's a lot of biochemical intricacies in explaining this. I'm not going to go into it in this video because it is really in depth. I do cover in this video with a ton of references. You've seen me recently in videos talking about it too. You can go back and look at that. The recent one on depression, which was the video before the last one, talked about how prevalent low cholesterol is in virtually all types of mental illnesses, and there's a whole slew of studies that prove that. So yes, cholesterol in food can be very beneficial. It's the processes that are happening in our body that can affect cholesterol, such as oxidation from inflammation, which comes from other lifestyle factors and other dietary factors, and then also what's raising your triglyceride levels, how's your HDL levels in comparison to triglyceride levels, and VLDL, which is the very low density lipoproteins which carry cholesterol. So we have to take all that into consideration. Check that video out if you want to know more, and don't be afraid of cholesterol. Number 3 on the list is that we should eat entirely alkaline foods. So there's so much hypocrisy and misunderstanding around this whole acid versus alkaline, what I would call dietary BS. It's just belief systems. There's very little science to back it up except for people, testing stuff with pH strips. But it's the actual effect that has on the body, which is the pseudoscience. Just looking at your blood under a microscope is not a complete way of understanding its effect. So what's important is to look at your overall intake of minerals, because it's minerals that are either acidic or alkaline. So yes, technically if all your foods were really acidic or if they were all alkaline, you would be imbalanced in the sense that you're getting only one group or type of minerals and not the other. So, sodium, magnesium, calcium, potassium, iron, these are all alkaline minerals, whereas phosphorus, sulfur, iodine, chloride, so there's a lot more, there's 90 plus minerals, and they can all be categorized into, on a scale of one end being alkaline, one being acidic, and they all fall somewhere in there, somewhere closer to neutral, and we want to be getting a range of them. It's not one side or the other. If we just load up on only alkaline stuff, it makes no sense as to why that would be healthy. The reasons why people often get good results from going on a pH balanced diet is because they might have only been consuming foods that were high in acidic minerals, and thus, if you've gone years with barely eating any greens and good plant foods that contain a lot of alkaline minerals, then yes, you're going to feel good because you're getting something your body was missing. So it has nothing to do with the pH, but it has everything to do with the minerals that are in those foods. So please do not talk to me about pH BS. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in the whole health world, because it doesn't really mean anything. It's like trying to say you haven't eaten enough crunchy foods and all you're eating is soft foods, and that's just because crunchy foods tend to be higher in silica and soft foods have other things, and that would be the underlying thing, but people are just looking at it from this outside perspective, which is like this one quality about a certain group of foods, as opposed to looking at what's underneath that causes those things, if they're lacking, to be good for you. Hope that wasn't too confusing.
Hey, we'll get back to the main topic of this video in just one moment. I wanted to let you guys know about a new product release at Surthrival. It's the 2-kilogram bag of colostrum. It's double the size of the previous largest size, and it's certainly going to sell out very fast, so I wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. There's also a great sale happening starting today going until February 26, 2013, and you can save 10% off any purchase of colostrum, not including the actual bag though. So you can see the coupon code on the screen here, so if you go through the link in the drop down menu below and enter that at checkout, you can get those savings. So now back to the main topic.
Number 4 is the idea that we can always consume more fiber. All digestive issues come from a lack of fiber, and if you're eating meat, it doesn't have fiber, thus it's a bad thing to eat, or any animal foods for that matter. That really is going to vary person to person. When I started to shift to a more animal foods dominant diet, my bowel movements became better than ever, and this was because for my personal body, I do better on a lower fiber diet. And this is the kind of dogma that exists with these blanket statements that are so often associated with health and nutrition. You also have to take into consideration there's a wide number of things that affect your ability to have good motility. Hydration, the health of your gut flora, the strength and ability for your gut to actually work, so the peristalsis of the muscles. If you've been only eating a liquid diet for years on end, then you're probably going to have weaker muscles. So if you suddenly start eating tougher foods, you're not going to have that muscle strength in there to work it through, and you can become constipated. If you don't have enough magnesium in your diet, that can cause constipation as well. And of course, yes, fiber does have an effect. I tend to advocate leaning more towards soluble fiber, which is high in berries, it's high in coffee and chocolate, and it's the very coarse fiber, which is more prevalent in grains, beans, which is the insoluble fiber, and it has a much more crystalline structure, which is harsh on the digestive system. It actually scratches up, and if you have any kind of IBS or any other really serious bowel issues like Crohn's disease, that can be really inflammatory in terms of not being very soothing. So another thing is not having enough fats in your diet can cause constipation. So a lot of people think animal foods, constipation, but generally it's going to be having too much protein with not enough fats or not enough water or not enough fiber with it, that causes protein to sort of like clump up and become very hard in terms of creating hard stools. So if you're eating animal foods, do not eat low-fat ones. Do not, throw away the fat or cut it off the meat, or throw away the egg yolk, because you're missing that thing that's going to help get that protein out of your body once it's finished digestion and has been all used up. Finally, number 5 is a very prevalent one even amongst the mainstream health community, and that is drinking water to some specific equation or in some specific quantity. This is really prevalent in raw food communities where they advocate, chugging water often first thing in the morning. And yes, you're obviously dehydrated in the morning. It's good to drink something in the morning, but it doesn't have to be a liter. I did that for ages, and it felt uncomfortable from the beginning. Yes, it's going to very quickly get you out of that slightly dehydrated state, and your urine is going to go clear, but it's pushing you too far. Really what we need to use is a visual guide of our urine being a light yellow color in the bowl once it's mixed with the toilet water, as indicating whether we're at that right point or not. If you want to get really specific, you can use a spectrometer, which measures mineral content in urine. And you can check out the links below where there's an article by Matt Stone about drinking water and using this special meter. I'm not even sure the spectrometer, I might have that wrong. Anyways, it talks about it in that article. They're very cheap to purchase. I'm going to get one soon and kind of test this out myself. But the visual method works well too, and it's looking at the mineral content of your urine and whether it's too low or too high. So then you judge by that, by what your body's actually telling you need, as opposed to drinking this many ounces per half your body weight in pounds of water. That was a common one for a while that people were advocating. Then there's like the classic drink 8 glasses of water. There's the raw food one of like drink 2 gallons of water a day if you're active. And by all means, if you're more active, you're going to need more water. That makes sense. But when we drink water, our blood expands. We dilute the energy in our blood and the minerals and fluids throughout our entire body. And if you're the type of person that gets really cold, and that's going to actually slow your metabolism down by drinking too much water, and you're going to flush out those extra minerals. It's going to affect your circulation, it's going to affect your metabolism, and this is not healthy. So check out that article below, and I'll also post a link to relevant videos to the cholesterol one, but also to one I didn't link to on the screen here, but it's one about food processing. I'll go into more depth about that. It was about a 2-year-old video of mine on that topic. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Maybe suggest another one that you think is a common one. And with that, I'll talk to you next time. Take care and embrace life without limits.